The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
In March of 2022, a Utah mother of three called 911 from her home near Park City. Her husband, 39-year-old Kouri Richins, was unresponsive. She said she had brought him a drink to celebrate the closing of a house. By morning, he was dead. At first, it looked like tragedy. Then came the autopsy. Kouri had 5 times the lethal amount of fentanyl in his system. A year later, his widow, Kouri Richins, self-published a children's book about coping with grief, promoting it on local TV. But detectives were quietly tracing text messages, financial disputes, and an alleged drug purchase from an acquaintance. Prosecutors say Kouri tried to poison Kouri once before. Now she stands charged with aggravated murder and other felonies. Was it a grieving wife honoring her husband, or a carefully constructed performance unraveling under scrutiny? Tonight, all the big moments from the courtroom in day 1 of the trial of Kouri Richins. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us. Brand new trial starting today right here on your front row seat to justice. A highly anticipated one. We've literally been talking about this trial and this case on this show for years now. For years. Today, it all started. And it's about a family from Utah. They live just outside of Park City, Utah. Beautiful family. You look at this photo and you're like, are you kidding me? Look at this family. Living a beautiful life. First of all, where they are is beautiful. In that part of Utah. Then you got 3 little boys who are just full of energy, full of life. They got their dad and they got their mom. Everybody's good looking. They've got money. They've got the life. But then when you dig a little deeper, to me it's clear that Kouri and Kouri were a bit of an odd couple. Not the greatest match. You know, you look at the picture and say, okay, they might match. But then when you dig a little deeper into their lives, where they come from, how they comport themselves, very, very different, right? Kouri is very traditional, hardworking, building a very successful business. His wife, Kouri, he met her. She was working at Home Depot. He was picking up supplies one day for his company. They hit it off, right? And she goes from there to being the wife, to being the mom, to now she wants to become a business person, a businesswoman, right? And she ends up getting into like real estate and house flipping, but she becomes a floundering house flipper and is just losing thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands into the millions of dollars of debt because she's just not good at it. And he realized it, you know, he's like, okay, here's some more money. Why don't you see if you can get it going? Then finally, enough is enough. Like, we've got to continue to live this beautiful life with our beautiful family and our beautiful home. We can't be trying to become, you know, an HGTV star. It's not happening. You're just not good at it, honey. Stop already. But then Kouri died from a fentanyl overdose. How did that happen? That's what the trial is going to be all about. Was Kouri someone who was suffering from physical pain? Yeah. Was he someone who maybe got hooked on some of those drugs, and then when the doctors didn't give him enough, he had to go to other places to find the drugs, and then unbeknownst to him, he got a dose of whatever he was looking for, and it was laced with fentanyl, and he just died. It was tragic. We've seen it all over this country, unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of times. Is that what was happening here? Or is this a wife? Was this a wife who wanted her husband dead, who was forging documents because she wanted the money, because she knew she was in debt, her husband wasn't going to help her, she wanted to get a whole brand new life as this house flipping superstar real estate Wonder Woman, mother of 3, running this big business. And if he's dead and I got his money, I can do it. Well, that's what prosecutors are saying. So, like many of the spousal murder cases that I've covered through the years, the case starts, the investigation starts with a phone call. It happened in the staircase. It happened in Scott Peterson. It happened in, I don't know, Rabbi Newlander. It all starts with a phone call. And then we listen to that 911 call because it is the spouse calling about something wrong with their husband or wife, and they end up being the defendant in all of it. So listening to the 911 call becomes extremely important. Is this person legitimately distraught, or is this person play acting? Well, the 911 call was played today that Kouri Richins made. You be the judge. Take a listen.
911, what's the address of the emergency? My husband's not breathing. He's cold. Okay, what's the address? Okay, what's the guest phone number in case it gets disconnected? Okay, it's going to be in Francis. Okay, tell me exactly what happened. I don't know. I just came in. I was sleeping with my kids. Okay, I can't understand you. I need you to take a deep breath. What's going on? I don't know. I was sleeping in with my kids. I just came in our bed, and I turned over, and he's just cold. He's just cold. Who's cold? My husband. I keep the light on. And he's not breathing? No. He's not breathing? No. I need you to confirm it for me. Is he not breathing? No. Okay, can you do CPR? No, I don't know how. You don't know? I'm going to tell you how to. Are you willing to do CPR? Yeah. Okay.
All right. You be the judge, right? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, along with criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. All right, great to have everyone here. I know you're all snowed in. You're all Northeasterners, so good luck with that. I'll never be there in the winter. The 911 call. I mean, I've covered dozens and dozens of spousal murder cases where one spouse becomes the defendant, but they're the ones making the 911 call. And to me, it's an opportunity for judgment here. And I think the jury will do the same thing. Al, what were you hearing in Kouri Richins' 911 call?
Well, first of all, greetings from Angle Cliffs, New Jersey, where we had 27.5 inches of snow, and I'm in my winter lair. So what did I hear? I didn't hear. It sounded very forced. It did not sound natural. It did not sound like someone who was panicking because this is what the situation was. There was not that angst in her voice. Okay, it just seemed very put on. So it didn't seem, anything clear or convincing to me with regards to that. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought she had some knowledge of CPR or something along those lines. And then in this, she's saying, no, I don't. And I think, okay, we'll teach you how to do it. But it didn't sound to me like it was authentic. It sounded very put on.
Darnell.
Yeah, I was hoping a 911 call operator would say to her, hey, listen, if we wrap this up quick enough, would that be helpful for you to get back to house flipping? And also, can you talk a little lower so we won't be able to help you and he can just go ahead and die? You can get your plans, to perfect your plans. She clearly wasn't sounding panicked. I'm trying to turn him over. I'm trying to do CPR. Can you help me do CPR? Can you come quick? These words, come quick. She was the poorest actor. And like you said in the opening, we saw a lot of these 911 calls that are made by the spouse. They're a lot more believable. Here, she wasn't urgent. She didn't want help. They said, are you willing to do CPR? She barely said yes. So she didn't want help. She was a poor actor, and it's not going to be looking good for the jury.
Jennifer Brandt.
Vinnie, can you believe we all agree for once? I do agree with Alan Darnell that it was probably one of the worst cases of acting that you've heard from all these other cases that we've talked about, where a spouse, calls the 911 operator. She just agreed. She didn't sound like she had any urgency to her voice. She didn't really even sound that upset. Seemed like she was fake crying. And, when she kept saying no in that little voice, no, 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 is he breathing? Someone who is truly in a panic would have been screaming, please get help now, send somebody, my husband isn't breathing, and would have been hysterical. She was sort of, didn't rush this situation, kind of just put on a good show, or tried to put on a good show. Wasn't that good.
All right, let's get to the opening statement.
Can I mention?
Yes.
Can I mention this point? When they try to put in so many details, when you try to shoehorn in all these details, what did the 911 operator need to hear? I was in with my kids, I was sleeping with them, I was with them, and then I came into my bedroom, and then I got into the bed, and then all of a sudden I felt he was cold. Okay, that is rehearsed. That is her setting her up for her alibi as to why she didn't see him do anything or anything along those lines. And when you start putting in all of those details, right then and there, it's rehearsed, it's not natural, it's not real, and she should be the first suspect.
Yeah. Well,
Vinny, whatever a cave Al is in, he should stay there because he's very on point tonight.
yeah, in his lair, he's very much on point tonight. All right, let's do this. Let's get to the opening statements. Today's day one of the trial. Here's prosecutors laying out at least part of what they believe the motive was for this alleged murder.
The evidence will prove that Kouri Richins murdered Eric for his money and to get a fresh start at life. More than anything, she wanted his money to perpetuate her facade of privilege, affluence, and success. Kouri Richins owned a house flipping business. She would purchase, rehab, and resell homes. She presented herself to friends and business associates as remarkably successful. The evidence will prove that on the day that Eric died, Kouri Richins owed over $4.5 million to over 20 different lenders. And she did not have the ability to service that debt because her bank accounts were exhausted and her credit was exhausted. On the day that Eric died, Kouri Richins was scheduled to close on an unfinished and derelict mansion in Midway, and thus take on an additional $3.2 million in debt. She did not have the financial ability to service that debt, to rehab the mansion, or to hold on to it long enough to resell it. The mansion may appear impressive from a distance, but upon close inspection, it is just a facade. On the other hand, on the day that Eric died, his estate was worth over $4 million. And the evidence will prove that Kouri Richins believed she would inherit it all. She believed that she would inherit Eric's $2 million interest in a stonemasonry business, an interest that a prenuptial agreement prevented her from getting any part of if they divorced, but permitted her to get all of if Eric died while they were married.
The prenup. A lot of people can say, well, just get divorced. You don't love him anymore. Well, the prenup would have prevented a lot of this. Darnell, what do you think of the money motive here?
Money is always at the centerpiece. And if you're going to have a situation where a spouse is questionable when it comes to the death of her husband or wife, they're always going to look to life insurance, money problems, etc. So 100%, I don't have anything wrong about looking there. The prosecution was level. Their tone was level. They focused, they laid it out in terms of what she needed the money for, the things that would prohibit her from getting the money, such as the prenup, and the pathway towards the money, such as death. So I think the prosecution was on point to focus on the money, and the way they laid it out was on point as well.
Jennifer, you think the prosecutor's laying out a story that the jury can understand, can follow, and ultimately potentially believe beyond a reasonable doubt?
100%, Vinnie. I mean, money is at the center of everything. They had a prenup. She couldn't simply divorce him. It wasn't going to work. She wasn't going to get any money from him. And she was in so much debt that she could never dig herself out without a big, life.
Can I ask you this, though? Can I ask you this, Jennifer? Is there a way to pierce that? That prenup, like with 3 kids and you've got a life together?
The only thing she could go for is child support, but usually that's not going to be enough to sustain her, and especially because she had all this debt. She had $4 million in debt, and he had a $4 million estate, and she wasn't going to get at it any other way other than him dying during their marriage. So I think that's pretty clear why she did this and didn't simply opt to get divorced from him.
One more
it's just a shame that he
one more
her.
follow-up, though, Jennifer, because we have your family law. This is in your right in your sweet spot. If a couple, like if she's got debt and they divorce, does the debt get divided just like some of the marital assets would get divided? Or is it not so crystal clear like that?
Typically in a divorce it would, but when you have a prenup, not necessarily. If, along with keeping your separate assets in a prenup, oftentimes we state that you'll be stuck with your debt as well. So it's very likely that she would have been stuck with that and wouldn't have gotten any way out. And no way to help her, no way out other than to do what she did, which wasn't a good way out, but...
Yeah, Vinnie, if I could just add to that point, one, I would say that, Jennifer may not have prosecuted a case in her life, but she is the expert when it comes to this family law stuff. So I won't even get in that space. But I would add that this wouldn't have been a pathway towards the relief that she was seeking, because even if she would have got divorced, and a lot of times, I've dabbled in that space. On the financial affidavit, we list all of the individual's debt. And if we come to an agreement, we say, you'll be responsible for your debt, blah, blah, blah. In this particular case, even if the debt was paid off, she still needed to get to that money. So if they would have got divorced, the debt could have been paid off, but she wouldn't have gotten to the money. And the money is what she needed to continue to build those castles or flip those other houses. So that wouldn't have been a good pathway. She needed him dead to get to the bag.
All right, Al, wrap us up here on motive.
She would have been all right with that.
Well, the motive the motive is always going to be either infidelity or money. And this one, you got both. So, it's a perfect situation. It goes right to the heart of the issue. I don't think that if they had gotten divorced, he would have assumed all that debt, because a lot of it was done behind his back. A lot of it was done, there's a mortgage fraud case against her and some other things along those lines. So his name has probably been forged on a number of documents that would have made it a situation where he wouldn't even have known about all of this. And it was starting to come into a position where it was going to crash. And so what's the best thing to do? Get rid of him.
All right. We're keeping the think tank tonight. They're going nowhere. When we come back, we're going to take a listen to the first witnesses who testified. Some interesting stuff there and some real tension inside the courtroom. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, an 84-year-old grandmother vanishes from her Tucson home overnight. Blood is found outside, and investigators say Nancy Guthrie did not leave on her own. What does each frame of the video of the suspect reveal? Tonight, we investigate.
The Court TV podcast will return.
I walked in, I kind of flung through the door, and I saw Kouri standing on the other side of the staircase. She just shook her head at me. Sorry, guys, bear with me, I apologize. And I knew right then my brother was gone. And I fell to the floor. She stayed over there. I observed that she was not how she normally was when we would go on overnights. She was very well put together. She had a matching pajama-esque outfit on. Her hair was all done up. She wasn't crying like I was. She wasn't hysterical. Just stood there and shook her head no at me.
That's Eric Richins' sister, Katie. Her and Kouri do not like each other. They do not get along. There's been some legal battles after the death of Eric that made things even more bitter. But you could see that moment, right, in the split screen. You can see Kouri's reaction, and you can see how Katie is. Now, I want to show you a piece of Katie's cross-examination where they go through some of the body camera video from what Katie was just describing, which is what Kouri was like and how she reacted to Eric's sister Katie showing up. So let me show you this part of that cross-examination.
And that hair right there, that's what you're saying she had fixed? Just her hair up and messy like that?
Yeah, as you can see, mine was down and messy and didn't have contacts in, anything.
Sure. So both of you had messy hair, and she's also clearly wearing pajamas. Does that refresh your memory that she was not in a sweatsuit, she was in pajamas?
I am not a fashionista, so to me that's a sweatsuit or pajamas, just to be honest.
Okay, and then keep playing, Kate, Miss Nestor. And that's her squatting down to comfort you while you're on the ground, and that's y'all hugging, right?
Correct.
So your memory about that was clearly wrong.
To be fair, it was 4 years ago.
Okay.
Let's bring back in the think tank. Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brandt. Jennifer, what do you think of Eric's sister and the cross-examination? They're trying to paint a different picture than Katie was painting.
Yeah, well, I mean, the sister is obviously very angry, especially if what, went on is true. So she, has some really hard feelings there. But I don't think it really matters in terms of the cross-examination, whether what she was wearing or the hug or anything like that. I mean, I think what the point of the sister is making is that once she walked in, it was pretty clear that her brother was gone. And I think she had a pretty good feeling as to, what had happened and that it wasn't an accident, especially after he had transferred the life insurance policy and everything else to his sister. So she knew something was up.
Al, what are your thoughts here? Do you think the jury listens to the testimony? Do they just look at the body camera and make their own decision here on how Kouri was acting and reacting in the moment?
Well, I think they're going to give the sister a little, leeway with regards to saying, I mean, this is a very, very traumatic event. It happened 4 years ago. Maybe if every detail wasn't correct. But, the sister is very key because you have a scenario where, Eric's family was always being kind of told, listen, I don't necessarily trust her, and that she may have tried to kill me, and that if something happens to me, we need to, you keep an eye out because it's probably her. So when you have a scenario like that, she's already has a chip on her shoulder when she walks into the house. I don't think anyone's going to hold that against her, and I don't think that testimony is going to do much with regards to saying. I think in no way does it exonerate, the sister-in-law by any stretch. The sister walks in, finds her brother dead, and feels that she's not showing the type of emotion that should be demonstrated. It's an opinion situation. I don't think it's going to be anything too major with regards to this decision and at this case, hence the reason why she went first.
I'm looking at Darnell. the split screen demonstrates the icy looks coming from Kouri, and Katie on the other side. You can read her face too. She does not trust Kouri.
So listen, the question was whether, in fact, that cross-examination told a different story, and the answer is 100% yes. I often say that there's nothing more lethal than a cross-land cross. That's a cross-examination you don't survive. And when I listened to the way this lady laid it out, it was akin to the cross-land cross. The reason why is because typically lawyers would tell you that you got to bang out, like, oh, aren't you lying? Didn't she have, but it wasn't like that. She just said quietly, looking at this picture, look at that. Does that refresh your recollection that this was not a sweatsuit? And she's dancing around. Were you wrong about this? Well, it was a long time ago, to be honest. That's another way of saying, yes, I was wrong about it. It was a long time ago. So that was a very, very methodical way of just breaking this thing down. Last tight little story, I had a Fed case, and, I was going to cross-examine the snitch, and they told me to go hard on him. I didn't do that. The guy walked into the side door when everybody else walked into the courtroom door. So when he came in, I said, listen, sir, you walked in through the side door, not the public entrance. Is that correct? Yes. Isn't that the employee entrance? You're here to work, aren't you? Not for money, but you're getting a 5K1, aren't you? So you're getting compensated. So when you reported to work this morning, did you meet with the government briefly? And I just kept saying when you reported to work, and basically the jury got the point that he was there to work. He was there to say whatever the government wanted him to, and I was calm about it. I didn't do that whole bang out thing. You're a snitch. And she did the same thing. She was very calm. She's very methodical. I see Al hating over there in the dungeon, but I'm the winner. I'm winning cases.
Al's taking notes for his next case.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know how to totally piss off a jury and make them fall asleep. And that's exactly what it's doing right there. The cross-land
look
cross.
At the
All right.
All I do is win.
Let's take a listen to some more testimony. We've got Eugene Richins. Eric's dad also took the stand today.
She called me and said that she had just talked to the medical examiner, and they had determined that he died of the same thing Linda did, and COVID.
And Linda was your wife, right?
Linda was my wife, yes.
What, sir, caused your wife's death?
She had an issue with fungus in her lungs. I called my daughter, Katie. Katie, in turn, called the medical examiner, and they had never received a call from Kouri. They had not even released the results from it yet.
Okay, this could be a problem. Why is Kouri allegedly lying to her husband's family about what his cause of death was? Why would she do that, Al?
It doesn't make sense to me why she would do that, but it's one of those situations where this is a very cold and calculating individual who is not necessarily, warm and fuzzy. And she doesn't like the family. You can tell that she's not particularly enamored by the in-laws. And she has been treated, I guess, like an outlaw. And so, you know what? I don't need to tell them the truth. I don't need to be sympathetic with them. They're not sympathetic with me. They don't like me. Okay, so why should I go out of my way for them? It's a horrible way to be, but it demonstrates the type of person that she is. And that's going to score some points with the jury. With or without the crossland crossbow.
The crossland cross.
Cross Island.
Yeah, well.
Parkway.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to go into your sweet spot, Darnell. It's time for the defense opening. What is their theory of the case? You'll find out when we return.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Look at this picture of a young woman in a fur coat. See it? Now look again. You see a witch? Nose. Mouth. There's going to be times in this case where the state is going to discuss facts with certain witnesses, and they're going to show you the witch. And I'm going to take those same facts and those same witnesses, and I'm going to show you a widow.
Very interesting. Very interesting the way the defense is presenting this case in Kouri Richins. There's two sides to every story. This is going to be a hard-fought case. As much as some people going in think the evidence is overwhelming, you're now in a courtroom. You've got a jury. They base it only on what they hear inside that courtroom, what is permitted inside that courtroom. And the incredible burden is carried by prosecutors. I'm just warning you. I've seen it before. So let's go in and take a listen to a big part of the defense theory of this case.
When Eric died, his Apple Watch was hanging on a charger, nice and neat. His phone was in a charger on the nightstand. He was lying in his underwear, like when you go to bed. He was on his back on his side of the bed. So it appears pretty clear that Eric went to bed and fell asleep and died in his sleep. You're also going to hear, slide 10, that there was an empty pill bottle right next to him in his nightstand. And I want you to pay careful attention to this. The empty pill bottle expired in 2016. Made out to him for pain pills. That's going to become important later. You will hear that Eric suffered from pain a lot. That he suffered from knee and back pain related to his work. He did hard work. He was a stonemason, lifting heavy stones. And he also was a huge outdoorsman. He was hiking, snowmobiling, skiing, hunting, and he had pain in his back and his knees from that kind of activity. He also had been diagnosed with Lyme disease. He believed he had it, and he claimed to people that were very close to him that he suffered with intense bouts of pain that he believed was related to Lyme disease. But this is a man's man, this guy. He's a hunter. He's a macho guy, right? He didn't want to show weakness. He didn't want people to know he was suffering. He didn't share that with a lot of people. You're going to hear that Eric was so dependent on the drugs like the gummies that gave him relief from his pain that he would even take it and smuggle it in his luggage when he went on trips out of the country and out of the continental United States when you got to go through TSA. That's how much he needed that relief. Just a few weeks before Eric died, guess where he was? Mexico. Guess where the fentanyl comes into this country from? Mexico.
All right, think tank still with us. Darnell, what are you thinking of the theme and the theory of the defense here? They're going after Eric Richins.
Yeah. I'll give her some credit. I don't like the tone when she's like, yeah, imagine, yes. And that theme, which I don't like, also connects to the other part I don't like, which is I often say when we're in law school, we learn to argue on brief and off brief, which means this is how we really feel, then they make us argue how we really don't feel, just to make us better arguers. So when she says that they're going to show you a picture that says a witch, and I'm going to show you that same facts, with the same facts show you a widow, it just tells the jury that we can both make up whatever we want. I don't like that. They're going to show you this, and I'm going to show you what it really is, or whatever. So she can tighten that up a little bit. But the idea that he went to Mexico, he was in all his pain, he got some drugs, etc. I think that's scoring some points. Now she just needs to tie it into the fact that her client wasn't in such financial issue or position that she would need to do this. So stay with the drug thing, but don't turn a blind eye to her financial problems. Get that in there. If she doesn't, then it's just looking to paint a picture that shows the opposite.
Yeah, she's kind of pointing the finger at two places, Jennifer Branch. She's pointed at Eric Richins and at Mexico. And I don't know if it's coincidentally, or I guess coincidentally, Mexico in the news. And, Mexico's on fire, by the way, right? The cartels are the biggest story going around right now. And maybe that is a fortuitous event for the defense if you're going to villainize the trip to Mexico.
Right, Vinnie, I thought she did an excellent job. I thought that she did create some doubt. It's not a slam dunk against Kouri Richins. There are other issues out there, the pain issue, the drug issue. Mexico, I thought that was pretty clever, whether she intended or was just fortuitous that this all happened at this time. But bringing that up now when it is in the news and we're hearing about drugs coming in the cartels in Mexico and all of that, I mean, listening to her, you are starting to think, hey, maybe there is another side to this. Maybe it is not what it appears to be. So I thought she was great. I thought she really scored some good points there. And, you know, maybe now the jury is, well, you know, open at least listening to this.
All right, Al?
Well, they were both even toned. I will say that the prosecution wasn't the fire and brimstone that you usually get with the prosecutor, and defense counsel was the way defense counsel should be, which is a nice even tone. Listen to everything. Don't make a decision. Don't make your mind up too quickly. There's two sides to every case, and there's two positions, and you have to hear everything. So I didn't think she did a bad job with regards to same. I don't like some of her phraseology. I thought that was a little off. But for the most part, I think she did a good job of showing what the victim, who is not going to be able to testify, okay, is saying in his death. And that's where this case always it's gonna like have to go on that. She's gonna have to, you know, make up what the victim was thinking, what he was doing, what was everything else, and stayed away from the money, which I thought was a smart move, because I think that that'll come through in her cross-examination as we go down the pike.
And Darnell, there's going to be a third finger to point by the defense. I think they're going to go after Carmen, the alleged drug-dealing housekeeper. Let's take a listen.
You're going to hear Carmen testify now that Kouri asked her for fentanyl. But what you're going to hear is that that was not Carmen's original story. That when Carmen was originally interviewed, she said no mention of fentanyl. It was all about oxy. There was no fentanyl. Carmen talks like she doesn't even know what fentanyl is, right? Guess when she changes her testimony? She changes her testimony when the police say, hey, you know what? We caught you. We caught you with drugs. We caught you with guns. And if you don't say what we want you to say, you're going to jail for a really, really long time, federal and state. But we're going to give you a ticket. We're going to give you a free ticket to get out of all the trouble you're in. But you got to say Kouri said fentanyl. And she changes her story.
Darnell.
Yeah, obviously, I support 100% that whole police flipping thing, because the idea here is when these people testify, and I heard somebody, another lawyer do this the other day. He said, you never met with me, right? No. But you did meet with the government, right? And you met with such and such. And if you want this deal, you have to stay true to this, yes? So that's what she was going down, that her story flipped after she spoke to the police. What I would add, too, is that in my defense experience now, I'm learning not so much, we have to learn a little bit about the medical stuff when we do these trials, but fentanyl has a medicinal purpose. So all fentanyl is not bad. I think a lot of times people think, you know, if you touch a bag that had fentanyl, you die. Or if you're around fentanyl, you're dead. But fentanyl is medically prescribed to some degree. So it depends on how much and what type. So so when she's running to or away from fentanyl, I think the mindset is like, oh, because this is a bad thing on its own. So I think, again, it's good to flip that.
Let me do this, Darnell. I only have 40 seconds left. I'm going to split it 20-20. Jennifer first, and Al, you wrap us up.
Oh, well, I mean, I agree with Darnell. I thought that it was pretty good about the fentanyl, but I don't know. I mean, you're saying that the witness flipped. We all know that she could have been in trouble. I'm not sure that was as effective as what she had done earlier. I kind of thought the previous part was better for me.
Vin, when you're on the defense, you throw the rocks as many as you can, and you hope you hit something. She's throwing a rock right now that may hit with the jury, and that's the maid that's selling fentanyl.
Yeah, or you throw the spaghetti against the wall. But if the prosecutor has cooked it al dente like you're supposed to, none of it will stick. All right, Al Wunsch.
Yes.
Darnell Crossland, Jennifer Brand, great to see you. When we return, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, she never made it to church Sunday morning. By midday, her home was a crime scene, and her family was pleading for answers. Then a video of the suspect is released. What does each frame of that video reveal about the abduction of Nancy Guthrie? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Back in court, it is Nick Reiner, the son of Rob Reiner. In court, look at him, looks a little different than he did before. Had some mental health issues, but was back in court today for his arraignment. Let's take a look.
Good morning, Mr. Reiner. And how would you like to proceed at this time, counsel? The court has, and I'll just make a record, the court has, we addressed the request for media coverage off the record. Court just orders that there's no live streaming and no live transport, no live transmission, and no filming of anyone in the gallery.
We'd like to go forward with the arraignment at this time.
Thank you. And on behalf of Mr. Reiner, do you waive full reading of the complaint, advisement of rights, including armed forces and veterans' rights, enter a plea of not guilty, denying any and all special allegations, enhancements, and priors?
Yes, Your Honor.
A plea of not guilty is entered on behalf of Mr. Reiner. Counsel's requesting
April 29th as 0-30.
April 29th, 2026 as a 0 of 30 calendar days.
Yes.
And may I take a waiver from your client at this time?
Yes,
Mr. Reiner, you are entitled to a speedy preliminary hearing. That's a preliminary hearing within 10 court days and 60 calendar days of your arraignment. Your arraignment is today. Do you understand, waive and give up those rights so that your matter may be continued to April 29th, 2026 as a 0 of 30 calendar days, with the understanding that your preliminary hearing may commence within 30 calendar days of April 29th?
Yes.
And does counsel join in that waiver?
I do.
The court finds that Mr. Reiner has made a knowing and intelligent waiver of his right to a speedy preliminary hearing within 10 court days and 60 calendar days, and that his counsel of record joins in that waiver. Defendant agrees that the next court date of April 29th, 2026 is a 0 of 30 calendar days. The matter is assigned to, for all purposes, by the supervising judge of the criminal master calendar. The matter is assigned to, for all purposes, to Judge Sam Oda in Department 108.
I think a big part of the way this case will progress is based upon how the siblings are reacting to all of this. I think they'll have a big say, even though it's the people of the state of California, they'll have a big say and influence in the way this case is handled. We'll keep an eye on it. I need you to keep an eye on the TV screen right now because we have a missing child who needs your help. This is Michael Tyler Herdman, just 16 years old, missing out of Columbus, Ohio since the 18th of February. If you see Michael, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Whitehall Police Department in Ohio. That number is up on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Michael to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.